The hidden psychology of power collapse. Why people stay silent when they already know. Ladies and gentlemen, this video is not really about politics. It is about something far more universal. It is about a question that has appeared throughout human history, from ancient empires to modern governments, from corporations to military organizations. Why do intelligent people remain silent when they can already see danger approaching? Why do insiders stop speaking? Why do former loyalists suddenly disappear? And why do people who once defended a system begin quietly searching for alternatives? Today, we are going to explore the psychology behind those moments. Because power rarely collapses in a single dramatic event. Most of the time, collapse begins long before the public notices anything at all. The real story unfolds inside people's minds. Imagine a large ship crossing the ocean. The passengers are enjoying dinner. The music is playing. Everything appears normal. But somewhere below deck, engineers have already noticed a problem. At first, only a few people know. Then a few more. Soon, everyone close to the machinery understands that something is wrong. Yet nobody announces it publicly. Why? Because human beings do not react to risk immediately. They react to incentives. They ask themselves, if I speak now, what happens to me? If I stay silent, what happens to me? And that calculation is where every major political crisis truly begins. Psychologists call this phenomenon pluralistic ignorance. Individuals privately recognize a problem, but because nobody else speaks openly, everyone assumes everyone else still believes in the system. As a result, silence reinforces silence. The system appears stronger than it really is. History shows that power structures often become most aggressive, precisely when they feel most vulnerable. Investigations intensify. Critics are punished. Former opponents become targets. Public displays of loyalty become more dramatic. To outside observers, this may look like strength, but psychologically, it often signals insecurity. When confidence is genuine, it rarely needs constant demonstration. When confidence disappears, public displays become louder. This brings us to a fascinating stage in the life cycle of power, a stage where loyalty begins to transform into calculation. At first, people compete to prove their loyalty. They repeat official narratives. They distance themselves from critics. They signal commitment at every opportunity. But eventually, something changes. The most perceptive insiders begin asking a different question. Not, how do I prove my loyalty? But, what happens if things go wrong? The moment that question appears, the psychological landscape changes completely. Watch what happens next. Some individuals become unusually quiet. They stop making bold public appearances. They avoid controversial statements. They withdraw from the spotlight. This is not necessarily rebellion. It is risk management. Psychologically, they are entering a period of observation. They are waiting, collecting information, monitoring the behavior of others, trying to determine which direction events are moving. At the same time, another group begins making unexpected connections. People who previously showed little interest in outside relationships suddenly seek new conversations, new meetings, new networks, new channels of communication. Again, this is not necessarily betrayal. It is insurance. Human beings naturally seek alternatives when uncertainty increases. The greater the uncertainty, the stronger the desire for backup options. And here is the critical point. When both behaviors appear simultaneously, some people disappearing, while others quietly build new relationships, the organization enters a dangerous phase. A phase of visible internal tension. The old consensus begins to crack. Not public, not dramatically, but psychologically. The group is no longer united by certainty. It is united only by uncertainty. Everyone is watching everyone else. Everyone is trying to predict what everyone else will do. And that is when systems become unstable. From the perspective of outside observers, the most important question is no longer, what happened? Instead, the question becomes, who is changing their behavior? Behavior often reveals more than words. Who suddenly becomes silent? Who continues making passionate declarations of loyalty? Who begins building new relationships? Who appears nervous? Who appears confident? These behavioral shifts create a map of the system's psychological health because people reveal their expectations long before they reveal their opinions. Now, an important clarification. A period like this does not automatically mean collapse is inevitable. History shows two possible paths. The first path leads toward deeper fragmentation, more defections, more internal accusations, more policy confusion, more competing factions. If that process accelerates, the system can enter a self-reinforcing cycle of instability. The second path leads toward renewed control. Leadership reasserts authority. Fear increases. Communication becomes more tightly managed. Potential challengers retreat, and the system survives. Both outcomes are possible. Which path emerges depends on events that follow. What kinds of events change everything? Psychologically, major systems rarely collapse because of time alone. They collapse because a trigger transforms private doubt into public action. One trigger is a prominent insider speaking out. When a respected figure openly challenges the system, observers suddenly realize they are not alone. Silence breaks. Others begin speaking. A hidden network of doubt becomes visible. Another trigger is evidence of division inside key institutions. When organizations responsible for stability appear divided, confidence erodes rapidly. People begin questioning assumptions they once considered permanent. Financial scandals can produce similar effects, not necessarily because everyone believes the allegations, but because official investigations change perceptions of risk. Investors, political actors, and bureaucrats all begin recalculating their future. External pressure can also accelerate change. Sanctions, diplomatic isolation, public warnings. These events alter the psychology of survival. People stop asking whether the system can endure. They start asking whether they personally can endure. Finally, elections and major political shocks often become turning points. Every system depends upon legitimacy. When legitimacy is questioned, uncertainty spreads, and uncertainty is contagious. This brings us back to the central theme of today's discussion. The most important transformation is not political. It is psychological. The moment loyalty ends and calculation begins, that is the moment when history often changes direction. Because from that point forward, people are no longer acting out of belief. They are acting out of expectation. And expectations shape behavior. Behavior shapes institutions. And institutions shape the future. So let me leave you with one final thought. An ancient Tibetan text, sometimes known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, contains a profound observation. People can stand directly in front of the truth, yet still fail to accept it if they are not prepared to see it. Perhaps the greatest mystery in times of crisis is not that people are blind. It is that they consciously choose where to look. And sometimes what people refuse to see tells us more than what they openly acknowledge. If you enjoyed this analysis of psychology, power, and human behavior, don't forget to subscribe, share this video, and join us for the next discussion. Because the most important events in history often begin long before the headlines appear.